All right, welcome in. Happy Thursday. Today is Thursday the 28th
Yes, sir.
of June
Yes, running out of time.
in our year 2012. When you control a man's mind, you don't have to worry about his actions. You do not have to tell him not to stand here or to go yonder. He will find his proper place and will stay in it. You do not need to send him to the back door. He will go without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, he will cut one for his special benefit. His education makes that necessary. You're listening to Knowledge is Power. Night's Thursday night. I'm Richard Finley. I'm your host. I'm in with Michael Hameen. The great Curtis Bell is absent tonight, but we've got capable stand-in with Mr. Lee Mitchell. Lee, we want to thank you and welcome aboard. You got your seatbelt fastened?
Yes, sir. I'm ready.
All right, be ready now, because this thing gets we hit some turbulence every now and then in this flight.
Yeah, they blamed it on him the last time.
Want to make sure you got your seat tray upright and your seat upright and everything locked down. Birmingham, how are you? For all of you out there who are our regular listeners, you know, before we start the show, we like to encourage you. Keep both hands on the wheel. Keep your eyes on the traffic. Put the cell phone down, turn the radio up, because we want you to arrive home safely. To all of those who are eagerly anticipating your arrival. Those of you who are already home, we like to encourage you as you sit down to the dinner table to turn the radio up so that the young people might listen to what we like to call grown folks conversation. On this, the 28th day of June, in the year of our Lord 2012, in some people's mind, the world ceased to exist. There has been such an outcry, such a wailing, such a gnashing of teeth like none I have ever witnessed.
Sounds biblical to me.
Sounds that way to me too. For today, the United States Supreme Court sided with President Barack Hussein Obama.
But don't be mistaken, this is not necessarily a hallelujah moment. Let the other shoe fall.
Well, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about some folks' world just ended.
Yes, it did.
The Union is in a perilous state. There are some people out dusting off their articles of cessation. Can't tolerate this existence in America. It's not the America that we knew. What in the world is going on in America?
Where are they going to go?
They're going back to Europe.
Come on now. This country is the best thing. This is better than sliced bread.
We have an outcry across this nation. For all of you who play on the political sidelines, the game is on. The only redress left to those who oppose the so-called Obamacare is the ballot box. The lines have been drawn. The teams have been selected. The whistle has blown. For those of you who haven't chosen a side, be careful, because you are about to be bombarded. And as this plays out on our national stage, we are engaged here in Birmingham in a similar battle on a smaller stage. I was in a meeting earlier today with several concerned, informed, dedicated citizens of Birmingham and the county of Jefferson. These citizens are outraged by the attacks on indigent care within this county. And it struck me that as the Supreme Court declared the so-called Obamacare legal, meeting all of the requirements of law within the confines of these United States, here we were in Jefferson County, under attack, fighting to defend the rights of the less fortunate to health care. There has been a relentless attack in this county on the Indigent Care Fund. There has been a relentless attack in this county on this county itself and its structure. I have tried with every fiber of my being to view this as not being purely racial. But as I looked around the room of those individuals who were deeply concerned about the maintenance of health care for the indigent in Jefferson County, I didn't see any Caucasians. That concerned me. I tried my best to say that we're beyond that, that certainly in the year of our Lord 2012, all of the old racist taboos have been resolved. We have educated generations of young blacks and whites who truly see themselves as Americans, unified in our objectives to provide for all our citizens an equality of opportunity and equality of existence, of life that should be afforded to all human beings. And it was my deep desire that this was true, that our young people were coming to that point where they didn't look at skin color or ethnicity. They truly chose their friends based on their character and their personality and their individual and worth. And I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe that we were truly making progress. I see signs of it all over our community.
Richard, I agree with you But this is a quote from Alice Walker. She says that racism is like kudzu, and if you're not active in keeping it plucked up, it will just engulf you. You know, I'm paraphrasing her quote actually.
Yeah, well, she's right, and
it keeps on coming.
It keeps on coming, and I am so, I am deeply concerned about the state of the union, and I think that President Obama has to now, I would encourage him, if he's listening to the program, and those of who are advising him, we do broadcast worldwide now.
And they do monitor worldwide.
Yeah, so I would advise him to go to the Lincoln Room and sit down and read and reflect on what Mr. Lincoln had to deal with in trying to preserve this union. And I would encourage our listeners in Mountain Brook, Vestavia, and Hoover to do likewise. Before you knee-jerk and before you react to the radical voices that have been bombarding you on radio and television all day long, take a deep breath, count to 10, reflect on where we are and how we got here. Because the union is in peril. I know that a lot of you who identify yourselves as white have a perception of this country that is not shared by a lot of us who identify ourselves as not white. These times are going to require some serious conversation from some serious people, or between some serious people, about how we move forward. With the Supreme Court's stamp on Obamacare, we are now brought back to Jefferson County's attack on the indigent and their right to quality, affordable health care. Throughout the conversations that we've heard on the airways of America, the Constitution has been front and center of these discussions. And a lot of our white listeners their forefathers conceived the Constitution. Their forefathers wrote the Constitution. Brother Sadana said that they wrote it for them. They didn't include us. They weren't thinking about us. It was for them and for their posterity. So now the Supreme Court in this ruling has flipped that script in a lot of their minds, because that's not the way they interpreted what their founding fathers intended in writing this document.
Well, for them and their daddies, no idea is responsible for the behavior of those who claim it.
Wow.
Go tell that.
Wow. That was the Reverend, yeah. We're going to get deep on this because this is one of those moments in the history of this country that will redefine this country. Those of you who identify yourselves as white, are you going to withdraw from the Union? Are you going to accept this interpretation of the meaning of the document written by your forefathers? How are you going to react, adjust, or adapt to a changing America where maybe now you don't have the numbers? And I particularly want to say this to the 3 commissioners in Jefferson County who want to ramrod everything because they have the numbers. To soak this in and imagine how you feel when you're on the minority side of the number. You have reacted in all kind of vitriolic outrage at the decision of the Supreme Court because the people who agreed with you were in the minority.
The racist rhetoric and behavior has already increased exponentially since President Obama has come into office.
And that's something that we've got to deal with. It is expected. But those of you who used to be in the majority, whether that be numerically or mentally, how do you react to being part of a minority position? Will you react violently? What are you going to tell your children about how to deal with a philosophical shift or representing a minority opinion? What are you going to do? You going to fight? How are you going to react now that your mindset is not the majority? How do you react when somebody who looks different from you, somebody who is not Protestant but maybe Muslim or Catholic,
Buddhist
or Hindu or whatever, is that person now speaks and you are part of the minority? How are we going to hold this union together? You going to pick up all your marbles and go home? You going to secede from the union? You going to throw a temper tantrum? You going to act like a brat? What are we going to do as America adjusts and changes? Old times there are not forgotten.
Well,
look away.
You inspired.
Look away, Dixieland. We have got these questions that we've got to face. We have got to find a way to assure ourselves and reassure the new minority, that the Union is worth perpetuating, that the Union is worth saving.
Frederick Douglass believed in it, even when things were a lot darker than now.
And we're going to talk about Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington. I've got a caller who's calling in about 10 minutes or so. And we're going to talk about the establishment of a public policy institute that we're going to call the Washington Douglass Public Policy Institute. And we're going to address the issues of the day from a black perspective.
Excellent.
And we're going to talk about how we develop a philosophy or a policy that we can have indoctrinated throughout our schools for young black people to buy into the fact that this system does work for them. Because it all ties into what's going on in the Birmingham Board of Education. How the state of Alabama can overrule an election in Birmingham, discard the elected leadership in a democratic society, come in with stormtroopers and take over. Because, as they said, we didn't have $12 million in the bank. Well, if that's the criteria, then government can come in and take over a lot of things. But I haven't heard the outcry from the Birmingham community that I'm hearing from the national community about the health care that should be coming from the Birmingham community about the state's decision. And I think that the people in Birmingham should now recognize the need to take this opportunity to address the quality of education that is being delivered in the Birmingham school systems.
Absolutely.
And I think we should take this time to truly put in a curriculum that educates young black people. The system is 99% black, and Mr. Richardson or whoever he is who comes in to take control of the finances should recognize that we want to open up this conversation now to the curriculum, because there is a problem when 40 to 50% of young people find no relevance in the education that you're offering and drop out of school. So while we're addressing the finances, let's address the curriculum and let's educate young black people about what it means to be black in America and what responsibilities come with that. They need to understand our history, because we're at a point that rivals Reconstruction.
But if the Negro managers weren't focused on that, how in the hell do you expect outside people from the dominant culture to serve that interest?
I don't expect them to. What I expect is that the Negro populace will step up now.
All right.
We've got enough educated, truly educated people within the black community to step in, to coalesce with that Board of Education and begin to rectify all of the miseducation that has gone into our community, to begin to rectify the curriculum so that our young people don't go out and do stupid things to put themselves in jail, so that our young people don't totally reject the sham that they're receiving that they call education. And we want our educated people, and I called on them before, and you jumped on me about them.
I jumped on you. This is from the Research Center. A thing or a word, like educators, a thing or a word means what it makes you do. Now, if that word is not making them do the right thing for
so
us,
they ain't educated.
It's self-evident.
Self-evident. They ain't educated. All right, we're going to get deep here in a minute, folk, but our pilot keeps telling us that we're coming up on the break. So we're going to take the break. You're listening to Knowledge is Power. Tonight's Thursday night. I'm Richard Finley. I'm your host. I'm in with Michael Hameen. Always know that Knowledge is Power is brought to you by the Committee to Develop Birmingham. Committee meets on the third Saturday of every month from 9 until 11 in the morning at the 5 Points West Library here in beautiful downtown 5 Points West. When we come back, we're going to have a special guest, and we're going to talk about public policy as it relates to the black community. More out of Montgomery County was talking about. Doug is an interesting individual, grew up on a farm in Montgomery, still owns that farm in Montgomery, has served presidents and governors and senators, and has maintained his independence. As I said earlier, when I first met him, he was a free man, and he remains to this day a free man. So we want you to stay tuned. We'll give you more information about the Washington Douglas Public Policy Institute, and we encourage all of you to subscribe to its website, to read its periodicals, and to submit your thoughts on how we might develop an independent nation of concerned, caring, intelligent, economically well-to-do black people in America. I told you earlier that I was in a meeting of concerned citizens today, working on how we combat this onslaught of, well, anyway, this onslaught on public life in Jefferson County. It is, in our belief, a deliberate attack on the structure of this county. We have been forced into an unnecessary bankruptcy. Those of you who live in this county have seen your property values drop considerably. Those of you who are customers of the sewer system have seen the resale market for your house disappear. So in effect, you've lost all of the equity in your house. You have seen a continuous increase in the attack on your take-home pay. Government is truly out of control in Jefferson County, and it will be imperative upon you as citizens to stand up and defend yourself. You have got to make sure that these elected officials understand that they represent you, that you require of them that they make government work for you. You should not be penalized by your government. You should not be suffering at the hands of your government. Your government is there to make things better, to utilize the collective resources of the community to provide those things for the common good that we can't provide as individuals. And when the people you put in office fail to do that, or in fact, when you find yourself in a situation like we're in here in Jefferson County, where you're having to defend yourself from attack by your government, by your elected government, you know, people who've come in with a pre-established game plan and mindset and don't give a damn what you think or what you say. They're going to do what they want to do. It is at these times that we have to stand up as a people, vote these people out, reject the insanity of the things that they're proposing to do to us. And certainly, if it is racially motivated, if it is motivated by greed from these public officials, then it is incumbent upon us as citizens to take these people out of office, to call upon the system to redress our grievances and remove these individuals who refuse to hear the concerns of the citizens, who have come in with a pre-established agenda and then would attempt to force it on the people. These same people who will stand up and tell you that, Assad in Syria is wrong, that Gaddafi in Libya is wrong, and yet they come in with their predetermined notions and attempt to force them on you, to close your hospital, to take over your schools, to tell you that you are incompetent to run your communities. What is the difference here? You have the same responsibility that the people in the other parts of the world who are rebelling against dictators, you have that same responsibility here in this so-called free land, to not let some disconnected individual who happen to get elected to a position come in and impose upon your life some idiotic concept that they might have about how you should live. So I was extremely pleased and proud of the group that gathered today to talk about how we combat this aggression on the part of our elected government. And we've got a caller on the line who is truly a representative of the people, who I would like to invite in to talk to you about the outcome of our meeting, the strategies that were proposed, and what will be required of you if we are truly going to be true, free citizens in this county. Representative?
Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity. And I want to thank, too, all of the citizens that showed up at the meeting that we had today. And I want to give you just a little background on how we got to have this meeting, starting with a person like Ms. Marilyn Mosley, who realized that it was time for us to stop just going on emotions and assumptions, and for us to start looking at all documents related to Cooper Green in order for us to wage an effective and legal battle against the people who would stand up and tell all the lies like you have spoken about, and to destroy health care for poor people in the Jefferson County. So having said that, I want to say also that to let the people know in the listening audience that we are combing through every document that has ever been associated with Cooper Green from the date of inception and up until now. And we're using those documents to build our argument as to why Cooper Green must stay where it is and must continue to operate as it's operating. And we know that there are changes that are constantly made in health care, and we will add those in the future. But an outcome of the meeting today, and at the same time, to let the public know what they could do to help us. One thing that we realized in this meeting today is that the county commission did pass a resolution to give Dr. Sandra L. Hewley the authority to put in place a health care authority, which Dr. Hewley did. They also came back and asked her for a business plan, which Dr. Hewley has done. That healthcare authority proposal she put together, along with the business plan that she's put together, we're asking you to join us at the next county commission meeting, which will be July the 10th at 9 a.m. In the county commission chamber, for all of us to be present, even if I think that's a committee meeting. Let me correct that. Even if we are overflow capacity, we want as many citizens to come out to support that proposal that they commissioned Dr. Hewley to put together for a healthcare authority, and they commissioned Dr. Hewley to put together a business plan, which she did all of that. So that's the first line of attack that we have, is we've got to declare the legitimacy of that resolution that the county commission put in place, and we got to let our voices, who are the majority of this county, be heard. And that's all citizens who are listening to this station, and for you to call your friends, relatives, and your church members to show up on July the 10th at the county commission office so that we can express our support of Dr. Hewley. There are certain other pieces of information that we have discovered that we will share with you on July the 12th at Antioch Baptist Church, located on Hattie Street in Pratt City. That meeting will start at 6 o'clock, and we need you there to share some other information that we have found that will help us stop this onslaught of the three county commissioners whose simple goal is to right-size government, and in order to right-size government, it means to cut the services that government promised us and for which we pay taxes for. So, Lee, if you got some other questions, I will answer according to the questions you asked.
Well, I want you to deal with this thing. The county commission keeps talking about Cooper Green taking money out of the general fund. Right. That Cooper Green is costing the county to operate. And is that true? I was led to believe that the sales tax that was created to fund indigent care was not done by the county, but done by the state legislature.
That's true, and what we have learned by combing through those documents is that from the state, from that 1 cent sales tax, the portion that goes to indigent care can be anywhere from $40 up to $44 million per year, and it's according to how people spend. From that money, so on an average year, the Cooper Green receives from the state of Alabama at least a minimum of $41 million. That $41 million, what we have heard today, coming through all of the county documents that we've been able to uncover, the county charges Cooper Green over $38 million every year for intergovernment services. To give you an example, they charge Cooper Green $138 for fleet services. When Cooper Green don't even have
$138,000.
$38,000 for fleet service, and Cooper Green does not have a car for them to service a fleet in the first place. That there are any number of county costs that are attached to Cooper Green, and is broken down even to the point that anything that the county does for Cooper Green, there is a charge. But I want to emphasize this fact. If on the average, Cooper Green gets from the state money that's never transferred to Cooper Green, but it stays at the county, if on the average they receive $41 million per year, I want the public to understand that out of that $41 million, over $38 million the county charges for services it renders to Cooper Green. No wonder Cooper Green operates at a deficit. If when the county receives the check from the state, they take out over $38 million.
Is that legal?
No. Excuse me. But I've checked with Reference Service on how indigent care monies are to be used. It's to be used for the care of poor people who do not have insurance or who are underinsured. Not for the county to skim it off the top and use it as they please. So that's another battleground that we have uncovered, that we will be dealing with more, with the fact that out of $41 million, first of all, the check never goes to Cooper Green, but that the county subtracts for its own purpose over $38 million out of $41 million. The other thing is that we've learned Cooper Green's accounting mechanism is an accrual-based counting, where once you get your money, you might pay your bills, which might be at the end of the month. The way the county has built up a negative opinion of how Cooper Green pays his bills, if, like in your household, you get your check the first of the month, if you look in your bank account on the 28th day of the previous month, you might not have the money to pay your bills. But if you look into your account on the first day of the month, when you get your check, you're able to pay your bills, and you pay them. Similar is what the county is doing for Cooper Green. When Cooper Green gets his money in, it pays his bill. It might be the 30th day of the month. What the county has done to mislead the public, they'll say on the 25th day of the month, they looked at Cooper Green's account. Cooper Green didn't have sufficient funds to pay the bills on the 25th, but the bills are not due on the 25th. The bills might be a 30-day bill, it might be a 60-day bill, it might be a 90-day bill. But on the day that the bill is due, the money is there. So to mislead people, there are two different accounting mechanisms that's in place. And the county is using theirs that's based upon cash payments as they receive their revenues in. But the state don't send those dollars in for the indigent care, even though we know how much we predict that there will be per year that's coming in there. They receive their monies at a different point in time during the month. There are any number of problems and misinformation that we have learned by going through these documents and looking at what the records show as to how the county is mismanaging the money. Let me say one other thing, too. We learned that the county has not always been in charge of all of Cooper Green's money. At its beginning inception, when Cooper Green received indigent care money, it came to the hospital. During that time, the hospital was able to pay their bills. They were also able to build up a reserve for future instruments or whatever they needed to buy to keep the hospital up to date. At some point in time, the county, like it is now, ran into a financial problem. When they ran into that financial problem, the piece of information we're looking for, because we know it's there, the county, through some mechanism, decided to take control of Cooper Green's monies that used to go directly to Cooper Green, and decided the checks no longer will come from the state to to the county, and the county gives the check to Cooper Green. Now, when they changed it, they took control of the check that comes from the state, all of the reserve monies that Cooper Green had built up over the years. The county took all of that money also because they was in a financial problem at that time. So it's so much that it is so much information that we are going through and learning, because now it's time for us to deal with the facts and use the facts to justify our argument that the county is taking monies from Cooper Green, and after they take the money, when Cooper Green has to pay a debt, they don't have money to pay a debt because the county has spent the money intended for indigent care somewhere else.
Representative Moore, I have a serious problem with a fleet service item and no fleet. That's serious to me.
Hey, we all have a problem with a fleet service cost the county is charging Cooper Green, and there is no fleet. So these are things that we're uncovering once we realize that we must go through every piece of paper, find every document associated with Cooper Green, rather than to go and try to, what we've been doing in the past is trying to challenge the misinformation that the county commissioners have been giving out rather than seeking the truth. Today's meeting was very fruitful. We got so many documents to prove our point, to show how the county is taking monies from Cooper Green, and when it's time for Cooper Green to pay off the debt that it incurred from day-to-day operation, they don't have money because the county has taken it. Again, I want to emphasize, if the county, if Cooper Green receives $41 million and the county charges them over $38 million for intergovernmental services, then how much money does Cooper Green have to operate on if the county takes their money off the top?
Well, it is clear that the county commission has been violating the intent as well as the letter of the indigent care law.
Exactly.
And they have now become so emboldened as to make a direct assault by submitting bills to the legislature. You know, this county commission has been so untruthful.
Yes.
They voted unanimously that they wanted a general fund fix and that the occupational tax was the simplest way to fix the general fund.
Exactly. And including, there's a bill still out that was advertised for any regular or special session for 2012. In that bill, it has an occupation tax, plus it seeks to unearmark Cooper Green money, the health department money, and tourism. And in the bill, it states that the county will take all of these dollars to sever the debt, warrant debt, from the bond debt. Mm-hmm. In other words, they'll take all of the money from the unearmarking, take it to New York, set up some plan to pay off the warrant debt, which is illegal, and they'll only have bond debt left to tackle.
Well, we're going to talk about the fact that, they have, once they agreed that they were going after the reestablishment of the occupational tax, that the president of the commission walked out of that meeting, went and filed 8 bills in direct opposition to the resolution that he himself had voted for. And so you can't believe anything that this commission says. You can't rely on their word in any of these situations. And this situation at Cooper Green basically mirrors the actions that they're doing to the citizens of Jefferson County in bankruptcy court. You know,
exactly.
You know that the citizens or the ratepayers are paying the bill for everybody in bankruptcy court, but the commission will not vote to pay for the ratepayers or the citizens to have legal counsel in the bankruptcy court. The lawyers in bankruptcy court do not represent the citizens or the ratepayers, and the citizens and the ratepayers are the ones who are paying the bill for everybody there. And the citizens filed in bankruptcy court a few weeks ago requesting that the debtor county and the creditor banks pay back or disgorge $1.6 billion of the $3+ billion in sewer debt. Now, you would think that the county commissioners would surely support the people who elected them, who are customers of the sewer system, and at the very least not object to the citizens' filings and ask that the court recognize their claim and order the banks to disgorge the $1.6 billion. But this county commission is standing in direct opposition to the citizens who elected them.
Well, you got to understand, too, let me correct you. These county commissioners, Carrington, Stevens, and Knight, they are honoring the people who elected them. Their districts do not pay sewer bills. Their districts, on the average, are where people live who are exempted from paying an occupation tax if it was in existence. So they're honoring theirs. It's just that it's left with the fact that districts 1 and 2 are taking care of the whole county.
So it all comes back down to racial division again.
Exactly. So they're doing, as Commissioner Carrington explained to those of us who went to the county commission's meeting the day that they tried to sell the Ketona home. At that meeting, Carrington stated that he did not represent those of us who showed up to fight for the Ketona home. Mm-hmm. And that his district, Vestavia, wanted Ketona closed. Now it's much later that we could put those dots together to understand why the people in Vestavia wanted Ketona closed. Because now they're using the beds from Ketona. If that gray area ever gets cleared, they will be able to use those beds to go into the nursing home that they would be building in Vestavia and I believe in Hoover.
Representative Moore, it sounds like we're getting closer to the possibility of having somebody go keep Larry Langford company.
Exactly. And that's why we're pleading with our listening audience here that on Tuesday, July the 10th, to come to the County Commission Committee meeting at 9 o'clock at the county courthouse. Let us express our support of Dr. Sandra Hewley, who the County Commission voted to give the authority to establish a hospital authority, which she has to draft the information all put together. Once she had that put together, they asked her to do a business plan. She has done the business plan. Our goal at that meeting is to ask the County Commission to accept that both documents that Dr. Sandra L. Hewlett put together. We're also asking the citizens of Jefferson County to meet with us at Antioch Baptist Church on July the 12th at 6 p.m. And that would be at the Antioch Baptist Church located on Hattie Street in Pratt City. If you come down the main drive and look toward the library in Pratt City, you will see the Antioch Baptist Church that has been rebuilt. That's where we'll meet on July the 12th. But we need the citizens' support of Dr. Hewlett's information that she has put together on how to establish the hospital authority, and also to support the business plan that she has been required by the county commission to put together. And let me add one thing on a footnote to that. It is apparent that after the county commissioners asked this black female to put together these documents, and she was more than capable enough and followed through on all of their requests. It is amazing to me how now they have dug up all of these white males to study which plan is to be accepted, and to pay out additional dollars to have that study done, to look at all of these other people's plans. When they commissioned, they passed a resolution for Dr. Hewlett to do it. So we've got to come out in numbers to support what she has done, and to let each county commissioner know that if we have an overflow crowd, and we're asking that, so if you can't get into the meeting, you would then go to all county commissioners' office and sit there and wait for them, so that when they finish their meeting, you can confront them face to face and let them know that we're asking them to vote for Dr. Hewlett's both proposals that she's put together.
All right, Mary. We certainly appreciate it. We're coming up on the break. Keep up the good work, and we'll be in touch, and we'll make sure that the word gets out.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity.
Take your vitamins and your stress pills.
I'll do that. Hey, I take my stress pill is the Lord, so I don't have no stress.
Amen.
Certainly look for the vitamins.
Amen.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, that was State Representative Mary Moore. Before we go to break, I want to say to our audience on the World Wide Web, to our YouTube audience, our Facebook audience, I was reminded that a lot of our listeners outside of the state of Alabama are not completely familiar with the things that are going on. So Representative Mary Moore was outlining the battle in Jefferson County as it relates to indigent care and the continued operation of Cooper Green Mercy Hospital. We have talked about the county's bankruptcy and how that impacts the largely black and poor community of Jefferson County that has no representation in bankruptcy court, that is being required to pay a sewer bill that is 300 to 400 times what is normal, and being subjected to the possibility of those rates increasing by pretty close to double digits for the rest of their lives. So what we have here in Jefferson County, Alabama, is an attack by government on the welfare and the well-being of the citizens of Jefferson County. The conflict, I am sad to report, is largely divided along racial lines. And I'm sad because next year is the 50th anniversary of the 1963 activities in Birmingham that led to the Civil Rights Act, that led to the Voting Rights Act, that led to many of the civil liberties that we as a people had to march and demonstrate and force our government to open up to us. And I don't want to draw any comparisons of how with a pen, people can be liberated, but we still struggle. We still have to constantly be vigilant because if we are not in this community, we will have what we have now, a situation where the citizens of color are constantly under attack by what is, for the moment, a majority of, and I hate using this word, but I grew up in Birmingham, and when I would come downtown, they would always have signs that this was for white and this was for Negro or for colored. So, I've just gotten accustomed to calling them white people. But anyway.
Well, you know how I feel about that.
Yeah, but anyway, so this, you would think that, 50 years after 1963, 150 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, that we would not be still dealing with these issues here in the United States of America, state of Alabama, the county of Jefferson. But I am sad to report that we are. And a lot of you who listen to this program over Facebook and YouTube, who are native to Birmingham and the state of Alabama, it is almost impossible for any of you to ever consider returning to the state of Alabama until we have straightened out this issue that seems to persist and seems to linger like a bad odor over this state, and we can't get past it for some reason. But we encourage you to keep listening, to contact us via the web, to give us feedback over YouTube and Facebook, to let us know that you are listening, that you are concerned, because it is our belief that only through public exposure and through public awareness that we can somehow begin to put a governor on the actions and activities of these individuals who seem to think that it all belongs to them. They want to take their county back, they want to take their state back, and they want to ignore anybody who is not them. And it's just time out for that foolishness. And we hope that the decent people of Hoover and Vestavia and Mountain Brook, the people who want to see us move beyond this precipice of darkness and ignorance, will begin to restrain and be more involved in the selection of their elected representatives, so that we get people who truly want to bring about cooperation across the boundaries of this community, and for us to begin to move forward and take our rightful place among the leading cities and societies throughout the swift-growing South. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back and finish out the program. You're listening to Knowledge is Power. Tonight's Thursday night. I'm Richard Finley. I'm your host. I'm in with Michael Amin. We'll be back. Beautiful downtown, 5 Points West. We've got just a few minutes left. I think we've got a couple of callers on the line. We're going to try to squeeze those callers in. We have tried to provide for you tonight as much information as possible regarding our situation here in Jefferson County, and the fact that our indigent health care fund and program is under attack by people who have never been indigent, probably don't know anybody who's indigent, but who are purely motivated by the opportunity to seize these monies and redirect them to people of their choosing. We cannot allow our community to be attacked in this fashion. We cannot allow greed in government to continue to dominate the agenda in our county or in our state. We have to rein these politicians and political renegades in. They have to understand that They're there to represent the citizens and there to make the government work for all citizens, not for any selected, in their minds anyway, group who somehow have the misguided concept or precept that because of their accident of birth that they somehow own or control or rule a supposed free people.
Well, Richard, there's a social filter. Now, I don't believe that Carrington is upper class kind of a European American. But
I didn't call any names, but
anyway,
but I agree he's not an upper class anything.
But the social filter that they look through is, I'm gonna use your word now. White poor is different from black poor. You know, it's a difference between being poor and white and being poor and black, and that's across the board. They look at that.
Well, there might be a difference in poor, but poor don't discriminate.
It really does.
I don't care what color you are. When you poor, you're in bad shape.
But they don't get it.
But anyway, let's try to take this last caller, and then we're going to wrap it up. Caller, we're sorry about the time limit, but let's make it brief. Welcome to Knowledge is Power. Caller, welcome to Knowledge is Power.
Hello there, Richard. Ronald Jackson. I love your introductory music. Stars Fell on Alabama. It reminds me so much of the late, great Bossman Williams, who could really orchestrate that thing.
Yeah.
But what I want to do with the limited time that you have today, I want the public to know that this matter of the seizure of Birmingham City Schools operations is not over. This is only the beginning shot. We're in a phase now that will require legal action. We need to establish a legal defense fund. Lawyers are not cheap. And freedom isn't free. What's at risk is that when school starts this year, larger class sizes for your students. That's not conducive for learning. All the research out there, you just Google it, say that for children who come from high poverty, socioeconomic background, the smaller the class size, the greater the learning. That's what's at risk. The state's not bringing one extra penny to fund your schools. You need to understand that really, really fine. They're not going to bring one extra teacher to your school system. You'll be funded on the same so-called grade divisors that they all have, and that means you're still going to have overcrowded class sizes. Overcrowding is also going to exacerbate student discipline when you have fewer, and I know it's a fine argument that people make. We know that there was top-heaviness at the high-paid salary level. But when you start talking about cutting people who are in attendance and guidance, like the hearing officers that handle disciplinary cases, you're putting students' safety at risk. So let me give this phone number because we cannot do this work alone. We need volunteers. We have a plan. We know what we're doing. And if you would only lend your shoulder to this wheel, we won't be talking about downsizing or right-sizing because they've already capsized the system. So the telephone number for anyone who wants to call and help work with Citizens for Better Schools and Sustainable Communities is area code 205. It's a local call. I'll just give the first code because there might be some other listeners. 205-862-053. Repeat. Area code 205-862-053. We'll call. Thank you very much, Rich.
All right, thank you, Ron. All right, we're about to wrap it up. To all of our listeners, wherever you are in the world, I know that, after hearing the program tonight, you're wondering what in the world is going on in Alabama.
Kudzu.
We have a lot of issues in the state of Alabama, And for those of you who are listening over the web who are from Birmingham, who have joined the diaspora, and you're located all over the country, all over the world, we need your help. Contact us through the Facebook, send us replies on the YouTube, give us some suggestions, some ideas on how we fortify ourselves to combat this onslaught of reversal that appears to be prevalent in the state of Alabama. As we try to move this community and this state forward, there are those who long for the good old days of Dixie, who want things back the way they used to be. And there are those of us who remember quite clearly how things used to be.
And say,
never again.
Hell no.
Never again.
And if you're just tuning in, you've just missed knowledge is power.
We're not going back. We're moving forward. It might appear to be dark at this moment, but it's always darkest before dawn. And there was a great man who said that on the road to freedom, you will have to walk often through the valley of the shadow of death. But always know that at the other end of the valley, there is that promised freedom. So we must continue to walk. We must continue to move forward. We move forward in the faith that our God didn't bring us this far to leave us. And let them know here in this valley of Jones that there will come a time when we as a people will say in the words of the old Negro spiritual,